Have you ever felt betrayed by the person you trusted the most? Imagine coming home one day only to find that your partner has completely changed the rules of your relationship without even asking for your input. What would you do if the love of your life decided to open up your marriage, leaving you feeling hurt and blindsided? This is the story of how I faced that exact situation, the emotional roller coaster that followed, and the decision I eventually made, even when she pleaded for me to stay. I, 35, a male, and Allie, 36, a female, are married with no children. After 6 years of marriage, I assumed we had a strong relationship. I was mistaken. My marriage has been falling into a dark dungeon for God knows how long, and I'm left wondering if any of those 6 years was confirmed. Last month I went to my grandfather's farmhouse. It was his 89th birthday, and the family decided to throw a party because his health was deteriorating rapidly. Allie joined me for the party but had to return the following day due to work. I planned to spend a week with him on his farm and work remotely. Throughout my 5 to 6 day visit, Allie and I spoke every night via video call. On the 3rd and 4th nights, I believe we were just talking on video chat about random topics when she gently dropped a bombshell that broke my illusion of our marriage. I froze when she asked, "Have you ever considered opening our marriage?" My stomach churned. My brain was still processing the words she had just said. I was doing something while on the phone, so I quickly went to the screen, hoping I had misheard. I asked her, "What did you say?" She rolled her eyes and said, "No need to overreact. I was just... Why don't we open up our marriage? You know, seeing other people. I feel it's fun just to spice things up." Her tone was calm, as if she was recommending a new vacation site or a different restaurant. For a minute, I was motionless and mute, attempting to digest what she had just spoken. My mind was racing with multiple notions. This was not us. We were not the type of couple who wanted to spice things up by sleeping with other people. I couldn't understand why she was even considering this, let alone bringing it up as if it were a normal conversation. I said, "No, I haven't thought about it and I don't want to." She shrugged, seeming to dismiss it. "I just thought it might be fun, something different. I heard about other couples who've done it and they're happier now." I heard her rant about so-and-so celebs doing this and so-and-so couples who are apparently happy having open marriages. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't believe what I heard. After she finished, I questioned her. "What's up, Allie? How did this thought cross your mind that we should open our marriage?" She provided some explanation that she was reading about these polygamous or polyamorous couples and their exemplary lives and became fascinated by them. I listened patiently, hoping to identify red signals. When she finished, I responded firmly, "No, absolutely not. I'm not interested in sharing you with anyone else. That's not the kind of marriage I signed up for." She nodded, but I could see disappointment in her eyes. She swiftly changed the subject, but something inside me told me this wasn't over. I had planned to spend a few more days at the farm, but I couldn't stay any longer after this chat. I felt anxious. I returned home the very next day. Ally was at work when this happened. I've spent enough time on Reddit to know that if your partner proposes an open marriage, it's more probable that they've already cheated or are about to cheat. I hastily searched her wardrobe and makeup cabinet for evidence of her infidelity, but found nothing. She was not startled to see me when she returned in the evening. She claimed she knew I'd run home after last night's conversation. She became passive-aggressive and turned on me, claiming I was accusing her of infidelity. I stressed that I did not suspect her, but I was concerned about her sudden interest in polyamory. She had a very twisted logic regarding my problem. She proceeded, "See, that's why people go for polyamory. You don't have to deal with the constant insecurity of whether your partner is cheating on you or not. You know your partner loves you and won't leave you. That's all that matters, right?" I replied, "That's not all. I can't share my partner because they failed to provide security. It's our responsibility to make each other feel secure." Things heated up and I frankly asked her if she was cheating on me. She instantly handed over her phone to be checked. I'm not as gullible as she believes. If she knew I'd be home and gave her phone to check, she'd have wiped off everything if it was there. There was no use in checking it. I explained that I trusted her and didn't want to see it. Then she burst into tears and stated that she had never cheated on me. It was simply a passing notion that she shared with me. It got to the point where I felt horrible for questioning her. She told me she would never cheat on me. We made up, and I believed we were set. It went smoothly for a few days, but Allie became distant and quieter than usual. She appeared preoccupied, frequently fading out over dinner, lazily browsing through her phone, or staring into space. At the same time, we were supposed to be catching up. She began staying late at work more frequently, which she had never done before. I confronted her and asked why she was suddenly so busy. She waved me off, claiming that her workload had doubled and that I was stupid for questioning it. I didn't let it go and constantly pressed her about it, but every time I did, she offered me her phone to check. I wanted to trust her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, as if she was concealing something. After the chat, I couldn't get it out of my mind. Why would she advise that? The timing of her proposal for an open marriage made matters worse. I was offered a 3-week on-site project in Germany, which was a tremendous chance, but I was hesitant to leave Allie with this thought lingering. I began to question every encounter, grin, and chuckle. The thought gnawed at me, but I dismissed it, telling myself I was being crazy. Allie had never given me any reason not to trust her before. Now she was constantly offering her phone, so perhaps it was just a passing notion. After careful consideration, I accepted the on-site offer. I was away for 3 weeks. We communicated frequently, but I couldn't shake the impression she was fading away. I tried to tell myself it was all in my brain, but Allie's texts began to shift after a few days. She stopped messaging as much, and when she did, the messages were brief and distant. I'd write her lengthy updates about my day and how much I missed her, but she'd just respond with 1 or 2 words. She no longer seemed to care. I asked her once if everything was fine, and she said the same thing. "I'm just busy, don't worry." I was not convinced. I pressed her further, and she brought up the topic of open marriage again, saying, "See, that's why open marriages work these days. There are no boundaries. You're secure with your partner, and you always enjoy your life. You're gone for 3 weeks, I have needs, and you're also worried that I might be cheating, so we should open up the marriage." This time, it wasn't just a suggestion. She spoke passionately. It is evident that she wanted it, whether I liked it or not. I was speechless. I said we'd talk about it once I got back. I opted to return home early from the trip. I needed to see for myself what was happening. I didn't tell Allie I was coming back because I wanted to catch her off guard and see what she was doing while she believed I was still thousands of miles away. When I went home, everything seemed normal. In fact, it's too ordinary. The house seemed spotless, as if she had been preparing for my return. She gave me a surprised smile, but something about her reaction felt odd, like she was putting on a performance. I paid close attention to her, not to brag, but I also searched her phone and discovered nothing. Stupid me assumed I was simply being paranoid. I expected her to bring up the matter again, but she didn't. The next day, yesterday, she returned from work, rushed into the room and declared, "Look, we have to do this." I was perplexed. "Do what?" she asked without making eye contact. "I've been talking to some people. I know this couple. They've been doing it for a while. It works for them, and I think it could work for us." I could feel my blood boil. People? What people? She hesitated to reveal that she had met this couple through an internet forum. They were all into open marriage and had been pressuring her to try it. I yelled at her, "You're already talking to them without asking me? Do you realize how messed up this is?" Surprisingly, she said, "I've been trying to make you understand, but you're stuck in your fossil concept of monogamy. I'm done waiting for you. I'm opening this marriage whether you like it or not." It took a moment for me to understand what she had said, but then I grabbed her shoulder and asked her straight out, "You've already cheated on me, haven't you? Look at me and answer." Her cheeks flushed, and she finally admitted the truth. She admitted to seeing someone behind my back. She quieted down and mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "I haven't cheated on you. I mean, not exactly. It was only once, and I thought you might come around and join me." Only once. She expected me to join her. My world was spinning. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. The rage that had been growing within me finally erupted. I didn't lose my anger quickly, but at that point, I was on the verge of strangling her. I suppressed my emotions and replied, "You thought I'd come around? You cheated on me. I don't care if it was once or 1,000 times. You've broken my trust, and that's the end of the story." She claimed it was only once, but I was convinced it wasn't. I stormed out of the house before doing anything I'd regret. I spent the night at my cousin's house and returned home the next morning to get my belongings. I intended to spend a few days in a motel before deciding where to go. In my mind, my marriage had already ended, but I didn't want to make any rash decisions. If I saw her face, I might be pushed to the limit, so I needed to avoid her. So she decided to spice things up by bringing a third wheel into our marriage. How romantic. To be honest, opening up a marriage nearly always assures a disastrous ending. It's just a method for the cheater to feel like they can get away with it. I stayed in a motel for a few days to clear my mind and decide what to do next. I was enraged, heartbroken, and puzzled. A part of me still loved her, but I couldn't get over the betrayal. During this time, Allie sent me only one text message and made no phone calls. The message continued, "I know you're angry now, and it makes sense. But if you think through it, you'll realize I tried to have you on board. I wanted to experience this with you. It's not cheating. I love you, and this is something that is going to bring us closer. I also know you love me so much that eventually you'll come along. I assure you it would be fun." I promptly met with a divorce attorney. It cost more to get in quickly, but who cared? My life was falling apart. I even paid him extra to expedite my case. After a week, I came home and found her on the phone, blatantly chatting with some guy. She didn't even appear sorry when I caught her. Instead, she smiled at me as if nothing were wrong. She hung up the phone and walked over to hug me. I simply walked by her and sat on the couch. She hugged me from behind and said, "I knew you'd come along. It would be so much fun. You'll see. I'll help you find someone." I removed myself from her embrace, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "I've filed for divorce." She stopped, then laughed out loud, saying, "No, you didn't. You can't. You love me." An idea struck me. To surprise her. I smiled and responded, "Yes, I love you," before going to bed and dozing off. I heard a tale on Reddit about a man whose wife destroyed the house when he tried to divorce her for infidelity. I did not want to go through that. I had valuable items that I couldn't afford to lose. So I waited for the paperwork to arrive. Meanwhile, I avoided all communication with Allie, even eye contact, because her face made my blood boil. In the meantime, I rented a condo and gradually relocated my belongings there during Allie's absence. During those days, I usually worked from home. Besides, my witch was too busy in her dream world to notice anything. She assumed I was simply sulking about it and would eventually come around. A week later, I received my divorce papers. I waited for Allie to go to work so that I could pack and leave. I hired a packing agency and had everything shipped, all of my belongings, including the furniture, couch, and closet. I threw all her clothes and accessories on the floor, leaving the room barren. Also, after I came home, I recorded all of our chats. No, she was unaware of it. I needed as much evidence as possible because divorce is a nasty battle. When she returned home that evening, she was astounded to find half of her belongings gone. Furthermore, when I handed her the papers, the expression on her face was beautiful. She was horrified, as if she hadn't expected me to follow through. She initially doubted its veracity. She continued saying, "This is all manufactured, right? You're doing this to prevent me from opening our marriage, right?" I chuckled, threw the papers in her face, and said, "It's true, you piece of junk." She freaked out when she realized what was going on. She began crying, clutching my face in her hands, saying she loved me and couldn't bear to be apart. She said everything she did aimed to spice up our marriage. She asked me to forget all that had happened in the previous several months, promising that she would stop talking to other men and practice monogamy again if that was what I desired. She was in tears, clinging to me and trying to persuade me to stay. She cried and continued saying, "I'll do anything. I will not see anyone else. Just don't leave me." I laughed, a sour, hollow sound. "You are saying this now because you understand my seriousness, but it is too late. You made your bed, and now you must lie in it." I finished packing my belongings, and as I went out, She dropped in the doorway, screaming, but I did not look back and drove away. She tried to phone me, but I immediately blocked her everywhere. Her best buddy attempted to reach me via Instagram, but I declined to talk to anyone. It has been 3 days since then. I've been living alone and trying to keep myself busy. The shock and numbness have worn off, and all I can feel is pain. Anger and loneliness have been particularly intense. To avoid negative thoughts, I've started going to the gym twice daily, going for short walks, and even spending extra time in the office. Her words keep repeating in my head, emptying me totally. It's all staged, right? Sorry to break your bubble, Allie, but this is the real deal. She phoned my lawyer and requested a meeting with me, claiming she would only agree with the separation if we talked. My lawyer suggested I meet with her to expedite the process. Still, he also cautioned me to take some measures. I emailed her the terms. I would record the chat and meet publicly to protect myself from potential manipulation. She begged to meet at home so we could talk more freely, but I declined and secured a corner seat at a quiet cafe instead. When I arrived, she was already there, looking dreadful with puffy eyes and a tear-streaked face. She appeared broken, but I couldn't let myself care. I told her I'd record the conversation and then started the recorder. Tears streamed down her face as she murmured, "I'm sorry. I already feel so guilty. Please do not humiliate me anymore. I understand how mistaken I was. I was so selfish and dumb. I thought it would bring us closer." I scoffed. "Closer? You thought cheating on me and lying to me would make us closer?" She attempted to protect herself, but I stopped her. I asked her to tell the truth. I needed all the specifics. How did she become involved in this? And for how long? After stammering and breaking down several times, she began talking. Her colleague practiced polyamory with her hubby. At an office party, Allie noticed her colleague having sex with a young intern while her husband was present. Allie was perplexed and questioned her coworker later, which is how she was introduced to the polyamorous lifestyle. Her colleague advised her to discuss it with me and obtain my permission before acting. But Allie assumed I'd agree since I loved her so much. She revealed that she had initially been meeting the same intern who was linked with her colleague. When she stopped, I prodded her, adding, "My intuition tells me this wasn't a one-time occurrence." How many times? How many guys? I want every detail. She demanded that I cease taping. I refused, telling her she needed to speak with the recorder on. She burst into tears again before grudgingly confessing the entire thing. She had intended to bring up her idea after I returned from the farm excursion, but when I disagreed, she tried to dismiss it. But when I went on site for work, she succumbed to her temptations. She had been with more than one man. I pressed for details, and she divulged everything. 3 people on various occasions spanning multiple occasions, 7 times in total, including one with 2 of them together. It felt like a sucker punch to the belly. Despite these admissions, she dared to claim that nothing had meant anything. She begged for one final opportunity, pledging to reform and return to the way things were before. But I couldn't manage it. Trust, once broken, cannot simply be repaired. She had destroyed all we had created together. She was crying so hard that I feared she might pass out, and for the first time, I couldn't keep back my own emotions. She grasped my hand and whispered, "Let's start over. I assure you that you will not be disappointed. I will be a decent wife. Our love is strong enough to get through this difficult time. Please let us get back together." I looked at her and said, "Every time I see you, I remember the betrayal. How can I reconcile with you after you deceived me?" I clarified that reconciliation was out of the question, and the sooner she accepted, the better for her. As I rose to leave, she grabbed my hand and requested one final hug. I stood there like a rock while she hugged me and cried. I unfastened myself and walked away. I could hear her cries but could not turn back. I didn't care whether anyone noticed her screaming. A few days later, her father called to request a meeting. While I could have refused it, her family had always been good to me, and I felt I owed them at least one meeting. When I visited them, they both expressed regret for what had happened. Her father said little except that he was worried about Allie's health. She had shut down, crying all night, barely eating, and phoning in sick to work. Her mother softly suggested a reconciliation but did not push it. With all due respect, I stated that it was finished between us. As I left, her father hugged me and told me he understood my pain, which was a huge comfort. Several months have passed since then. During the divorce procedures, I witnessed Allie and her parents in court. She appeared lean and unfamiliar. Her parents were taking her to therapy. The divorce is still ongoing, but emotionally, I've moved on. I've begun reconstructing my life without her. While it has not been easy, it is preferable to live in a lie-filled marriage. Allie continues to reach out, writing me long emails about how much she misses me, but I don't respond. I can't. The ally I fell in love with has vanished, replaced with someone I no longer recognize. Although some wounds never fully heal, I am relieved to be free. It's time to mark those emails as spam. Honestly, I would have told her father I didn't care what she was going through. She brought it on herself. That concludes today's video. If you found it helpful or enjoyable, please give it a thumbs up and comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you're new here, subscribe and enable notifications to avoid missing future uploads. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.